Welcome to Uploading, the podcast where we take you behind the wheel with the world's best creators, marketers, and professionals who have cracked the code on how to profit through content. You'll learn the ins and outs of content strategy, creation, production, distribution, growth, platforms, tools, and more. If you haven't already, be sure to join Cast Magic, the all-in-one content workspace for professionals. We'll be sending out tips from our shows in our weekly newsletter, and we've also got a Slack community of over 1,000 creators, so make sure to drop in and say hello. And now, get ready for the show.
What is going on, Uploading? Today we have Anthony Gallo. He's a co-founder of contentcreator.com, which is an online course business that helps start creating video content and helping creators start monetizing it. So contentcreator.com has helped over 100,000 students start creating content with just your smartphones. Anthony, I would love to hear more around your approach to contentcreator.com and your background. So I'll let you take it away to give us a quick summary of.
Yeah, for sure. Pumped to be here. Thanks for having me. I guess without going too far back, one could say I was always into video. I loved it. I didn't have, a ton of money growing up to buy cameras. So I viscerally remember wanting to make YouTube videos, wanting to make travel videos, and never really feeling like I had the right gear. And, I never really got over that. I ended up just saving up money and buying professional gear. And that, snowballed into starting a production company in college where I, shot some pretty awesome videos of like major musicians who would come to our school and perform commercials for different areas of the university. And even though I was going to school to become a doctor, I realized without a doubt that content was what I wanted to spend the rest of my life doing. So I graduated and was just running this production company for a few years, growing it, having a blast doing it. And then I got connected with really my first official mentor in life, who is Paul Xavier, who is my co-founder at contentcreator.com. And he was much more on the marketing side than the creative side. And so we had this duality between the two of us where I loved creating content. I was very creative, and he knew a lot more about business than I did at the time. And so we decided, the online course world is a great business to get into. You can have a, extremely high positive impact on a lot of people. The business model has a lot of benefits to it without having, cost of goods sold and all this stuff. So we decided we wanted to create a course to kind of solve the problem that that I specifically dealt with when I got started, which was loving content, but not having the gear that makes you feel comfortable creating content. And that, that idea gave birth to our first really successful course, which was 14-Day Filmmaker. And I mean, it a lot of things happened that looking back were kind of lucky, like we launched 14-Day Filmmaker the same week the CDC announced the 14-day quarantines for COVID, which was like, serendipity. Obviously, it wasn't an incredible thing to be happening in the world, but hey, we, our first ads were like, hey, are you stuck at home for the next 14 days? We can teach you how to create content with the tools that you already have. And so that has just snowballed, more and more over the years to launching additional courses that help content creators accomplish a variety of different things. But it's always been a problem solution focused approach, not just like, hey, what do we want to teach, but like, what do we actually see people out there struggling with? Similar to, I'm guessing how, obviously the Cast Magic team blew up their brand as well. So
yeah,
that's kind of the background.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've heard stories of many businesses that started around that time, but I hadn't heard of one that launched on the day that it was announced. So that's impeccable timing. I want to take a step back, and I'm curious about your decision-making from going of like being a doctor to saying, I'm going to go all into content. You invested a ton of time into learning and becoming a doctor. What was that decision making process like? And how did you make that leap?
Yeah, well, I would say there's two things about me that probably a lot of people share, but I am constantly looking like 5 years down the road. And, people, I'm sure a lot of people do this. They get stressed and anxious about like where they might be. And so with that, I was always focused on like, where will I be in 5 years from now? And what will like the financial picture look like? Because as like many people, I had dreams and aspirations, and the doctor path just made so much sense as a kid because I was passionate about science, or I was interested, I should say. very scientific family. It just like, it made sense. But when I was in college studying to become a doctor, as interesting as the concepts were, I realized that I was using the doctor approach to achieve like one major element of my goals, which was financial freedom down the road. But it was missing this other massive aspect that I hadn't really considered at the time, which was passion, right? I was interested in becoming a doctor, but I wasn't truly passionate about it. And what I realized at the time was, wow, I've always had this other aspect of my life that I've been super passionate about, which is content creation. I had all the limiting beliefs in the book that, I wouldn't be able to actually turn that into a career. But I was like, now's the time to try. You're young, you don't have kids, your bills are relatively low. And within a couple of months of actually trying to turn the content thing into any form of career, it was making enough money where in my brain, I was like, I could graduate and I can live off this. And that's just today. So there I was like looking down the road, 5 years down the road. Yeah, if it keeps growing as it is now, I'll check the box of I'll be able to live and sustain, and I'll check the box of massive passion and doing something that, even more important than financial freedom, you could actually see yourself doing for 5+ years. And once I had the two of those, I mean, it was just lights out. I'm never going to stop doing this. What would you do tomorrow if you quit? I'd probably fish for a couple days and then keep making content. I'd go back to doing exactly what I'm doing now. So definitely feel like an extremely lucky person to have found that early on. And that's part of my, passion now, is helping other people find that alignment in their own lives.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. And one of the things I love as well is, my previous business was a UGC business, like content creation, where people were making content out of their phones. And so it's a very similar thesis to what you guys have, in the sense that you're helping beginners create video. And so when you chose to go after a specific market, this can seem counterintuitive to, the majority of creators who are like, people say the 80-20, the top 20% are, taking 80% of the revenue and the income. And I'm sure that many people would have thought, well, hey, you're going after people who are beginning, they don't retain, they don't have enough money to like invest. So I'm sure that plays into some of your passion side. What did you see in the beginners that made you think this is the market we want to dominate, which ultimately is what you really did?
Yeah, great question. So I would say the biggest reason is because I had a lot of imposter syndrome. And at the time I wasn't, I wasn't the most educated business person. So there wasn't as much strategy that went into it as you probably hoped there was. But I didn't feel like the world's biggest expert, but I knew I could help people that were level 0 to 3 get higher. And I felt confident that I could do that quickly. I didn't feel like I'd be, lying about my own experience. I was very clear when I got started and I, was selling these courses. It was like, hey, I'm not Martin Scorsese, but I can help you pick up any type of camera and start creating content. So that was kind of the logic. But the happy benefit down the road that we found is like, if you do target beginners, it's already the biggest audience and it's the fastest growing audience, because every day, no matter what industry you're in, assuming it's not newspaper printing, so, something that's just kind of dying over time, there are more people picking up a camera for the first time and realizing, wow, this is kind of fun. Or they're doing something where they're like, oh, I wish I knew how to record this. There's more people experiencing that than we could ever sell to in a certain day. And there's, including our competition, right? There's other people who sell courses similar to us, and there's so much to go around, and these people need so many resources to be successful. It's just a great place to be in. And it's really fun because the fastest progress anyone makes is going from level 0 to level 3. You can do that in a matter of weeks. So it's super cool to see people say like, hey, I never dreamed I'd have a YouTube channel, to I just got 500 subscribers. I had one video pop off, and it's like, wow, that's crazy. And then on top of that, from a true business strategy, there are so many additional problems, right? New level, new devil. Every time somebody learns something, okay, now I've got a new problem. And from contentcreator.com's perspective, it's like, oh, cool. Now we have 50 other problems that we can create new solutions for, whether that's, additional courses, marketplaces where they can download, editing effects and templates so they can edit faster, accountability coaching. We call it our value ladder of different offers for people. That's really only possible because our primary target at the beginning these beginners, and then we carry them ideally all the way to the finish line.
And the barriers to entry keep getting lower and lower, right? Like the tools are getting better, faster. AI is being applied to a lot of these tools. The cameras keep becoming like higher and higher quality, more accessible. We basically have the power of a creative studio in our pockets now. And so anyone can really get started. So I'd love to give the audience more context on the thesis of the type of content in the form that you guys teach, because one of the things you've said is that information can be like a beginner's worst enemy. So I'm curious, as a course instructor, how does that tie into your thesis? What is the form of your courses? Are they bite-sized? Are they long, sort of like format where they're an hour long? Well, how is it that you teach best these beginners who are just like getting started with content?
For sure. Yeah. So our thesis at the beginning was, hey, like this information's out there, right? You'll hear it anytime somebody's selling a course. It's like, oh, you can get that free here, there, and everywhere. And it's like, yeah, you definitely can. But sequencing and speed is what matters most, which is why most of our courses have 14-day, 1-day, 30-day. They're all time frame based. And so what we tried to do is really distill the readily accessible information, but make it unbelievably scripted and controlled, right? A lot of YouTubers, they're in the world of, I got to make a video a week. I can't invest that much time into it. And we were like, we're going to take a 30-minute concept on YouTube, condense it down into 15 minutes, but include twice the amount of information that the 30-minute video might have had. And that comes through like really, really rigorously scripting and planning and mapping out every single video. So if somebody were to enroll in 14-Day Filmmaker, our 3 primary avatars are people who just want to like learn content creation for the first time. They don't really have any goal. They're just like, I want to learn how to use my camera and edit videos. Then we'll have, let's call it like the social media brand builder. So it's like, I don't really know why, but I want a YouTube channel. I want to get subscribers. I want to, hit 100K followers on TikTok, whatever it may be. And then the third one, which is selfishly the one I might be the most passionate about, is the entrepreneurs who have a brand that they need help monetizing it through content, right? They've got a great product, but they don't know how to get it out to people. And so with those 3 avatars in mind, we were like, what is the minimum amount of content and the fastest period of time that they would need to get successful in 14 days, because that's 14-Day Filmmaker's time frame. But then what everybody gets surprised with when they buy our courses, there's like all this additional content on the back end, which is the frequently asked questions and just the stuff that maybe you don't need to know, but you over there with a different goal definitely need to know. But it's not a requirement for everyone. So generally, I guess to summarize all that, it's what is essential to get from somebody from point A to point B as short, as quick as possible. That's our main course curriculum. And then every course also has a database of, let's call it accessory details for people who have really specific questions.
And I wonder if the community leverages each other to grow as a content creator, because I think one of the things you mentioned as well is one of the greatest forms of inspiration to come up with content ideas is to look at other creators, right? You don't need to reinvent the wheel, especially if you're starting out. There's too many variables on what might make something work. And at the end of the day, you're an artist when you're a content creator, and they say, what is it? Good artists copy, great artists steal. And so you can see the metrics of what's performing and find patterns and just sort of replicate it with your tone. So I guess it's a 2-part question. How does the community play a part into contentcreator.com? And then how do you define success for one of your students? Is it metric based? Is it tailored to each student? What does success look like?
Yeah, really great question. And I cannot stress that enough, what you just pointed out, getting started, looking at other people who are successful and trying to just like trend to piggyback or take some aspect of what they're doing, adopt it to your own just while you're learning, because it's all about building that muscle memory. But either way, I just love that concept. So the first question was, how does our community leverage one another to get faster, correct? Yeah. So I think, like you said, there's nothing more powerful than surrounding yourself with people who have a similar goal. So the ways we see people leveraging our communities to get the best results is coming in day one and finding like 15 to 20 people who are at the same stage with the same goal as you, right? And, our courses, some of them have over 100,000 students. So again, not everyone's at the same stage. Not everyone has the same goal. But if you can get into a community and actively search out the people who are, in those same spots as you, create microtribes, create, little accountability groups where everyone is testing different strategies of accomplishing the same thing, to where they can inform each other. And instead of you going out and having to test 100 different strategies, you only need to test 10. But if you're in a group with 20 other people, now collectively you are testing 200 different strategies. And who is it? Mr. Beast, I actually think, is really notorious for using that same exact strategy to skyrocket his YouTube growth. He just had, some people call it masterminds, microtribes, whatever you want, but leveraging multiple people to test faster is, I would say, the first answer. And then the second part of your question was, how do we measure
Correct,
success? Yes. So I would say, again, there's a certain group of people who just want to get good at content. For them, my measurement is happiness, right? Did we deliver on our cue of making it fun to shoot and edit content? Because for some people, editing is the plague to them and they hate it. But then let's say the other two avatars, growing your brand, the first metric that I look for is like, how fast can we get you to 1,000? So if you came in and maybe you're at 1,000 already, in which case we'd pretty much just like 10x it. The next milestone is 10K. But can we get you to 1,000 followers, 1,000 subscribers in under 30 days while you're still having fun? Because definitely in the content world, like if you're getting started and you put yourself in this situation where your passion and your enjoyment isn't aligned with your end goal, you're going to quit. So if we can't have you do it in a fun way in the first 30 days, right, we got to restructure that. And then the last avatar, the person who's trying to monetize an existing brand, I'm not so much worried about the fun. I'm more so worried about, like, do you have a strategy that you can repeatedly do every week that is proven to generate you a return? And there are different ways to do that, right? That you guys know, growing, multiple businesses, there's 1,000 different ways you can make money creating content, whether it's ads, it's social media, it's, YouTube, long form YouTube, where you sponsor your own content and make call to actions, having a podcast like this, again, where you build your audience. So many different strategies. We need to find the 1 to 2 for you that are proven. And once you're off to the races, they're only going to scale over time. So not even like a number of how much money you make. I don't really care. It's just like, are you confident waking up every day knowing what's going to push the needle for your business?
Anthony, I think that's a really important point for content creators, because like burnout is so real, and having, setting yourself up for success in the beginning and knowing what's fun, what's something that I can commit to, I think is a super important point. The two things that I kind of wanted to dig into are, one, your content is all about getting started as a creator, especially in the videography space. So I'd love to kind of go a little bit deeper on, what are some of those major lessons other than, get started, find something that you love, pick your right niche, understand who you are as an avatar. But like, what are some of the other criteria of success? What are some of the other nuggets in your course that you find to be the most impactful for like aspiring creators who are just getting started on their journey?
Yeah. What just to narrow it down, would you say this is like for freelance videographers, for people trying to grow like their YouTube subscribers? What like individual avatar do you?
Let's pick the avatar of people with a business who are trying to create content to, grow their brand and inherently their business.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the biggest golden nuggets I can give anyone is simplicity, right? Like there is so much that you can do. And we just actually came back from a live event that we were hosting for contentcreator.com this past week. And I think I had 15 different strategies that we probably really deep dived into on how people are monetizing their brand right now. And even though I taught all 15, I was like, again, you really just need to hear all this, figure out which one makes most sense for where you're at right now, and commit to doing that for 6 months. So I would say right now, ads crush, right? Ads always work there. It's a competitive landscape, but if you can get really good at ads, that's all you need to take your brand from maybe you're at 6 figures right now to multiple 6 figures per year. I think that one strategy alone will do it. Then you have, big fad right now is, I call it social automation, where it's you have an asset that you're going to generate leads with, because the lifeblood of every business is having leads. So maybe you have this free PDF guide and you post a social media short form on Instagram, and you're like, comment below and I'll send you this free guide. That stuff is blowing up right now. Between ManyChat, Go High Level just introduced their own version of that. But picking that pillar and then committing to doing it nonstop for 6 months. That's how long it will truly take for some exponential growth to come out of that. And that's what we've seen, right? Like when we started our YouTube channel, that was a vehicle to generate sales for our online course business. So again, I'm introducing a third strategy here, not to overwhelm anyone, but that we had nothing. We had like nothing when we started our YouTube channel, maybe 1,000 or so subscribers. And we were like, we're going to start posting at least one video a month, and over time we'll ramp it up with the goal of adding value to people's lives and then having them convert and purchase 14-Day Filmmaker. It did nothing for like the first 4 months. No sales, no growth. It just, it was a grind. But by month 6, it's like, oh, wow, we're getting 10,000 subscribers here and there. And people are converting every single day to buy 14-Day Filmmaker. And now we're at probably like, I'd say the 2-year mark. We just actually hit 200,000 subscribers. It's one of the biggest marketing pillars of our business. We have larger brands. Like that's probably how you guys found us, just off that one YouTube channel strategy. And big picture, it's like ads and YouTube. Those are the two things that an 8-figure business in contentcreator.com have used to grow to 8 figures over the course of 4 years. So again, to distill all that back, it's pick your strategies and do it for at least 6 months, and expect to see the rewards really only come after 6 months. But if you have the willpower to do that, I mean, there's literally almost nothing that can stop you in business.
Anthony, I have a question about that because I totally agree. I think consistency in content is one of the most important things, and it's like nothing, it's nothing, and then all of a sudden it's something, right? But how do you distinguish when your content actually is nothing, right? Because like it's like you said, first commit for 6 months, but like I'm curious what the inflection points were for you when you said, okay, and then we started seeing 10,000 subscribers here. Like what changed? Was it the quality of the content? Was it just purely consistency that just needed time? Was there things that you learned that you applied so you got better and better every video? Like what changed for you? And then I guess on the flip side of that question is, how do you know when like, okay, I've been consistent, I've been doing this, but like, I just don't have content market fit and this just isn't working?
Oh yeah, really good question. So for us in particular on YouTube, I have this analogy that I actually steal from Paul, my business partner, and it's the ice cube analogy. And it's, you can have an ice cube sitting on a table and it will, no matter how much heat you add, it won't melt until it hits 32 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So that the analogy is like you are the ice cube and your goals are the ice cube. And no matter how much better you're getting, there's that inflection point where, okay, now we're finally at the point where this freaking ice cube is going to start melting. And sometimes I say I don't actually have 32 core skills, but let's say, imagine there's 32 core things you need to learn. Even if you learn 29 of them, again, you still have like 3 things you need. So for me on YouTube, I was good at producing content, right? My lighting was good. I had the right camera settings. I was okay at presenting when I started. Like I definitely was not the most natural person on camera, but the major things that I lacked was understanding the packaging. And, the packaging is what all major YouTubers talk about. And you only realize it in hindsight, once you've actually kind of nailed it. But if you create content that people genuinely watch, it inspires curiosity, and just the thumbnail, right? If you can get a thumbnail and a title combination that are like people scroll by on YouTube and out of the 10 videos on their screen, they see yours and they're like, I'm super curious about that. You just start blowing up. And that's how, for us, we literally produced 12 videos and went from essentially like 1 to 2,000 to 100,000 subscribers in a year on the back of just about 1 video per month. And it was rigorously devoting ourselves to not creating content that maybe like we wanted to, but creating content that we knew our audience wanted. And for us, hopefully that was tactical enough. I know it's kind of like everyone screams focus on the packaging, but without a doubt, and then we went from 100 to 200,000 subscribers in like 6 to 7 months, almost half the time. Again, it was being more consistent at picking topics we really felt people would value. So that's what I would say.
One question I'd have there, Anthony, is, we've started with the individuals being empowered to becoming creators and being able to educate them, and then being able to just get started the day they finish the course. Now we're seeing businesses are trying to build their own distribution, and every business now wants a media arm and has a media arm. And this is just the beginning of brands owning and creating their own distribution to diversify themselves from depending on ads. And so I'm curious, if I'm a business and I'm looking at growing my business account through YouTube, there's two ways to do it, right? There's the business channel, or there's like the founder-led content approach. I'm curious what advice you're giving to businesses, because as a business, if the founder is the one that's looking into this, like there's two options, which is maybe three options, where you either hire an agency or you hire an editor and you sort of run the system in-house if you're the founder and you can't be the editor yourself. There's so many ways in which you can take this approach, and many ways in which you can spend a lot of money, get nowhere. So I'm curious what advice you have for business owners that say, hey, I want to grow my business through YouTube, whether it's my SaaS or, my any type of business, really.
Yeah. So I would say what we asked ourselves, because obviously it's me and Paul own contentcreator.com 50-50. And what most people obviously realize is that Paul's never on camera, right? He's never, even though he is equally the co-founder as I am, never on camera. And what happened was, when we got together, we were like, how do we want to build this out? And I asked Paul, I was like, could you see yourself creating YouTube content for the next 5 years? Right. And he was like, I definitely don't want to. Like, that is not what hypes me up about business. I'm way more about the back end. And then he flipped the question and was like, what about you? And I was like, that actually is something that would hype me up, like trying to be the face, adding value to people every single day. There's definitely some probably like psychopathic ego involved in that question as well, which, yeah, I want to grow that following and I want my face to be on top of it. And, hopefully I'm man enough to admit it, but I answered that and I was like, yeah, 5 years I could do it. And if 5 years, if we're making really good money from that strategy, I'll do it for another 5. And so because I was able to answer that question as honestly as I possibly could, that's exactly what we've done. And so I think level one, you got to ask yourself, as the founder of the company, is this a marketing strategy that I could see myself doing for 5 years? Because you got to do that, right? It's almost non-negotiable. Now, if that answer is no, and you don't want to be the person on camera, but maybe you don't have the budget to hire, to get somebody else to do it with you, then do it yourself, but from a bigger perspective of, I'm not growing my face, I'm just using my face as a brand, as a tool to grow the brand. And because once you get money coming in, we're at the point at contentcreator.com where we actually are actively looking for other brand faces to, like a girl would be great because, people watch who they are. And so it would be great to have a girl on the team who can create content and expand us in that direction. But so overall, I try to tell people, like, if you go from the approach of, we are not Anthony Gallo, we're contentcreator.com, and we used Anthony Gallo to grow contentcreator.com, you have flexibility and freedom to do whatever you want. And that's what we're at, that kind of inflection point now. But on the flip side, you guys are probably aware of like Think Media, right? They have a huge YouTube channel. They're absolute geniuses when it comes to growing YouTube. Sean took a similar approach where he used his face to grow Think Media, but even faster than we did. He diversified, and now he has a whole team of people underneath him where their content is super not about themselves. It's just about the viewer. And as long as you make your content less about yourself and more about the viewer, you have the flexibility to, I think, change your face as often as you want, because it really isn't about the face.
Yeah. And I mean, I've seen, we're starting to see it on LinkedIn, businesses growing through B2B content. YouTube has barely even gotten started. I just wanted to ask a question for businesses that are listening, because creating content in-house can be extremely expensive too. If it's not you doing the editing, I mean, some companies are spending $20,000 plus a month to create YouTube content. And, I think this is really valuable information before they even decide to pull the trigger on an agency. We're even seeing now roles like the ideas person, the strategist for YouTube. Like, the editor isn't necessarily the only role involved. That when you unpack the entire thing, there is a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt. And I think a good strategy for that, and something that we actually took a similar approach to, is if you want somebody to crush something, they need the right incentivization model, right? And I could hire an editor and be like, hey, I'll pay you 6 figures, be our editor and help us scale our brand. To a certain point, they're not going to want to work Saturdays. They're not going to work late on that Friday night so they can post the video Saturday morning. And so what we've found is like to really incentivize a majorly growth oriented leadership role, which I think an editor can be in that role as well. They need a piece of the pie. And so if you are let's just go from the SaaS company again, where you're bootstrapping things and you know YouTube will be a great revenue driver for you, but you don't have the skill sets, you don't have the money to actually do it yourself or hire it out. What you need to do is recognize how valuable of an opportunity YouTube is, map out how you're going to use it, hire a killer, and let them know that they could potentially make $500,000 a year, because that's totally possible in the realm of YouTube monetization, using it as a marketing pillar to grow your brand. They can make that, you can give them the incentivization model to, hey, any sales you drive from the YouTube channel, you get 40% of that. Any of the AdSense you generate, you get 40%. Any of the brand deals that you have 40% of it, right? That's a massive income potential. And the right person will see that and be like, wow, I get to do this and not have to build the software in the background. I don't need to manage the customer support. I don't need to build all this infrastructure that the typical solo YouTuber would have to build as, their own monetization leg. That's a dream opportunity. Like, that is literally the dream opportunity. And I think for business owners listening to this, again, if you choose YouTube as one of those, 2 to 3 strategies that are really going to grow your brand, map out the role, find freaking 50 people and really narrow in on who is the biggest killer that eats, sleeps, and breathes this. And I think you can crush it. You can literally just annihilate it with your YouTube channel.
That's it right there. That's some golden advice. So before we wrap it up, Anthony, I have one more question, which is around the person that wants to turn YouTube into their business. And so one of the primary ways for you guys to grow was the ad channels. So, and I wonder, how were you able to scale that as a channel? Is it all about the offer? Is it constantly creating and switching offers? How much of it was, well, he probably had a really good paid ads person? How much of it was, no, they were masters at creating offers? Like, what was the one reason, if you had to attribute the success to one reason for why paid was able to, skyrocket your guys' success?
For sure. Yeah. I would say our secret to success with paid media was twofold. The first thing was we really entered the game with, again, I'm sure every founder says this, but what I believe to be a no-brainer product. We were taking, essentially similar things we're selling for hundreds of dollars. They didn't have weekly Q&A calls. They didn't have free downloadable assets. They didn't have all these things. We packaged it all together, put it in a time frame that was faster than anybody else's course, and made it 1/10 the price at $48. And we knew, if anybody out there runs paid ads, it's going to be hard to be successful at scale with one individual $48 product. So as soon as we got our first no-brainer product off the ground with paid ads generating sales, we went back into the product game, and we made additional products that we knew this was going to be the first additional problem that our 14-day filmmaker students were going to have. This was going to be the second. This was going to be the third. And so as soon as we could, we created those products. And assuming our first product was really good and actually did its job, we knew we would have earned the trust of those initial users to where they would upgrade into additional products down the road. And again, for us, that's really where almost all the profit of our business is made, knowing that we'll earn people's trust and come back. So either way, I would say step number one was no-brainer offer and additional products, right? Most great businesses are recurring, or they're built off of having a customer buy not one, but multiple things. So right out of the gate, we nailed that, or we tried to. And then the second reason we were able to scale with paid ads is unrelenting focus on trying to have unique and valuable ads, right? Like, everybody's looking for, no offense to Russell Brunson, but like the Russell Brunson template on how to run a Facebook ad, or this person's like, copy my script and just fill in the blank of what you want to do with your ads. And that's, again, good for building the muscle memory, but we try to go in the complete opposite direction, which was have a good message, but try to share it in a way that no one else is doing it. So we had humor-based ads, just really funny, weird scripts that we knew a person scrolling trying to get distracted would likely still watch our ad because it's fun in some certain way. And we obviously teach people how to do stuff like this at contentcreator.com. We teach people how to scale their own course businesses. And without a doubt, I would say one of the most common attributes of success in our students is they have a buttload of fun in the process of marketing their brand, specifically with the ad creatives. And those people, I mean, you could go from 0 to very high revenue numbers with ads relatively quickly if you nail that uniquely fun and valuable aspect with your creatives.
Awesome, Anthony. Well, this was golden advice. Thank you so much for coming on to Uploading and sharing all your knowledge. For anyone that's listening, how can they keep up with you and learn more about contentcreator.com and your courses?
I think it cut out there a little bit, but I'm guessing it was how can they keep up with us and get updates on the brand. The number one channel I post on is our Instagram. So that's @_Anthony Gallo, just my name. And then obviously go to contentcreator.com. We have a ton of free resources on the site that, walk through how to get started, how to monetize stuff. So download that. You'll be in our email list and you'll get a ton of stuff from us.
Awesome. Thank you, Anthony.
Sweet, Anthony. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, you got it, guys. This was a blast.